Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be tier ranking the Blue Rangers of Super Sentai. I won't have as much to say about these than I did the Red Rangers and Six Rangers, but I still think they're pretty good. At the end I'll talk about Chashiro from Boukenger, as well as the two Akiba Blues from Akibaranger. So without further ado, this is my tier ranking of the Blue Sentai Rangers from Jetman to King-Ohger. First is Akko, Blue Swallow from Chojin Sentai Jetman. She's definitely the Jetman that has the least to do. She doesn't really involved with the relationship stuff between Ryu and Guy and Kaori. And really the only thing she has is like an arc where she learns to not be as greedy. But that really just boils down to an episode plot. The Cup Noodle episode is one of my favorite episodes of all of Sentai, and that's technically an Akko focused episode, but she's still not that special, so she's going in C tier. Next is Don, Tyranno Ranger of Kyoryuger Sentai Zyuohger, and he has the most personality out of the main five, but even that's kind of a stretch. Like the other Zyuohgers, he's just a nothing character and his backstory is never explained, and I remember nothing from him, so he's going in D tier. Next is Shoji, Tenma Ranger of Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger, and he's kind of just a generic character. He's kind of a jokester, but I don't really remember his personality too much. He's not too memorable of a character. But I will say his relationship with the three Gorma Stooges is pretty wholesome, even if it is a kind of a weird relationship. Definitely the weirdest of the Dai Rangers, but it's still pretty good, and I like him overall, so he's going in B tier. Next is Saizo, Ninja Blue of Ninja Sentai Gekiranger, and he's definitely the funniest of the Gekirangers, but he's also the most annoying. He's kind of always on, and he can just be annoying sometimes. And I just like that even when the story got serious, when they had to go get Kakure Daishogun, him and Sekai, the two comic relief characters, actually had a funny episode where they become kappas. So I'm glad that he doesn't really sacrifice his funniness for anything. Even then, he's not that great of a character, he's just kind of funny. But I still like him. He's C tier. Next is Yuji, O Blue of Chorky Sentai O Ranger, and like the other O Rangers, he's just a nothing character. Like Don, I guess he has personality in quotes, but it's just nothing. I don't remember anything. I remember some of the plots of the episodes, like with the Kendama robot and like befriending a Paranoia, but other than that I don't really remember anything from his character specifically, so he's D tier. Next is Naoki, Blue Racer of Gekiso Sentai Car Ranger, and like all the other Car Rangers, I don't really remember the individual characters, I just remember all of them as a whole being funny. The character doesn't really matter in a season that's as goofy as Car Ranger, so he'll be C tier. Next is Shun, Mega Blue from Genji Sentai Mega Ranger, and he's another character I don't like. And out of the Mega Rangers, he's definitely the worst. Just, he's boring and he's kind of just an asshole character who's a loner. And really the only thing I know about him is that he wants to be a graphic designer or something. And other than that, he's just boring. So he's going in D tier. Next is Goki, Ginga Blue of Seiju Sentai Gingaman. And he's definitely my favorite of the Gingamen. Like the other Gingamen, he doesn't really get any focus outside of his focus episodes. And they're just really wholesome with him trying to go out with the teacher and having to compete with this other guy for her affection. It's really funny. And he's a dim-witted character, but has a good heart. And I just really like him. So he's A tier. Next is Nagare, Go Blue of QQ Sentai Go 5, and he's mostly a generic smart guy, but he's also kind of cool. Other than that, I don't really remember much about him, but I do remember him having some pretty cool episodes, so he's going in C tier. Next is Ayase, Time Blue of Mirai Sentai Time Ranger, and at first I didn't really like him just because he was kind of mean, but he has an intreatable illness, so it makes sense why he would become cynical. And he does become better throughout the season, and he has a pretty good episode near the beginning between him and Tatsuya that explains his illness, and that's good. So I think he's a pretty good character. He's B tier. Next is Kai, Gao Blue of Hyakuju Sentai Gekiranger, and like the other Gekirangers, he's just nothing. The only thing I can remember about him is like his never give up thing with Gao Black, and that's all I can remember, so he's D tier. Next is Nanami, Hurricane Blue of Ninpu Sentai Hurricanger, and I feel like the three core Hurricangers kind of blend in together, and she is good, but she's not really memorable. I can't really remember her apart from the other three. I don't really remember anything about her specifically, but I just remember liking her, and she's pretty good, so she's B tier. Next is Ishu, Zyuohger of the Go-Rigers, and then later Ninpu Sentai Hurricanger, and he kind of just exists to me. I feel like Kabuto Riger got all the cool moments, and he just kind of follows him around, and it's just there. He's still cool because the Go-Rigers are just cool in general, but he gets nothing to do while Kabuto Riger gets a pretty cool story arc, so he's C tier. Next is Yukito, Abare Blue of Bakuju Sentai Akibaranger, and he's another generic, serious loner type, but at least there's a reason for this, as it's the relationship with his father, which is explained in one of the episodes. He's probably my least favorite of the Aberangers, but he's still a pretty good character, so he's A tier. Next is Hoji, Deca Blue of Tokuso Sentai Gekiranger, and he's also a generic cool guy that's the most professional of the Gekirangers, but he just has the best episodes in all Gekiranger. Every single one of his focused episodes are so good. Episode 37 is one of the best episodes in all of Sentai. He just has a lot of really good episodes, and also his relationship with Ban is really wholesome, so he's going in A tier. Next is Urara, Maji Blue of Maho Sentai Magiranger, and she's just pretty boring. I don't really think she had much to do other than be with Magi Shine in a couple of episodes, and she's just mostly forgettable, probably the most forgettable out of the Magirangers, so she's C tier. Next is Sota, Bouken Blue of Go-Go Sentai Boukenger. His character isn't too memorable, but he does have a cool aspect as he was a spy. But like most of the Boukengers, while the backstory is interesting, it isn't brought up too many times. The episodes that do focus on his backstory are cool, but overall he's just kind of a generic character. That's kind of a jokester, snarky kind of guy, but he's cool and I like him, so he's B tier. Next is Retsu, Geki Blue of Juken Sentai Gekiranger. He's pretty boring like the other main Gekirangers, but out of the core three, he's definitely the best. He has a pretty generic, loner, serious personality, but he just has an interesting relationship with his brother, and that just makes him better than the other two main Gekirangers, so he's B tier. Next is Ren, Go-On Blue of Engine Sentai Go-Onger, and he just has an interesting personality as he's the mother figure of the Go-Ongers, and that's usually relegated to the Pink Ranger. So it's interesting because he's a Blue Ranger. Other than that, he's mostly like a know-it-all nerd type character, but I like that he's like the mother character, and he has some pretty good episodes, so he's one of my favorites. He's A tier. Next is Ryunosuke, Shinken Blue of Samurai Sentai Shinkenger. He's mostly a comic relief character where he's just wholly obedient to Takeru, and that leads to funny moments, and that's pretty much his entire character. He has some things with his passion for kabuki, but I didn't find that too interesting. And once Genta is introduced, even though they're both comic relief characters, they go together pretty well, so I overall like him. He's not too annoying, although he can be annoying at times, but he's B tier. Next is Hyde, Gosei Blue of Tensou Sentai Goseiger, and he's definitely the best Goseiger. He's just cool, and calm and collected as opposed to the other Goseigers who are mostly impulsive and rash. And he has an interesting backstory with his partner who was Gosei Green, but that pretty much just boils down to a filler plot. He gets some cool moments, but definitely not as much as Alita. But he's still cool and much better than the other Goseigers, so he's A tier. Next is Joe, Gokai Blue of Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger. Although he's another generic, serious, no-nonsense type character, I still like him a lot. He's one of my favorite Blue Rangers. Just he's the right-hand man to Captain Marvelous and is well respected by the rest of his team. But he has the most interesting backstory of all the Gokaigers, as he worked for Zangyok and then defected. And then his relationship with Barazorg and his rival with him is really cool throughout the season. So he's just a great character. He's going in S tier. Next is Ryuji, Blue Buster of Tokime Sentai Go Busters. And he's just another great Blue Ranger. Just that he's the oldest of the team. And he is more of a mentor to the other two Go Busters. And also that he hasn't fallen to a nerd stereotype or a stoic serious type. He's more of a normal person. And also that his Buster Power weakness is actually used for character moments instead of comic relief. So he's just a great character and he's going in S tier. Next is Nobuharu, Kyoryu Blue of Juden Sentai Kyoryuger, and he's my favorite Blue Ranger. Just that he's an older character and he has funny puns all the time. And also that he's kind of like Ryusoulger from Akibaranger in that he has a relationship with his niece and his family. And that's really wholesome. And he's just my favorite Kyoryuger. He fits the theme well as being goofy, but can also be taken seriously. And obviously fights for his family, so that's really cool. So he's just great. My favorite Blue Ranger. He's S tier. Next is Tokachi Tokyu Nigo of Russia Sentai Tokyoger. And he's another one of my favorite Blue Rangers. I'm not exactly sure why, because he's mostly just a nerd stereotype, but just something about him I've always liked. Definitely my favorite of the Tokyugers, probably because he has some moments where he doesn't just feel like a nerd stereotype, and I just really like him, so he's going in S tier. Next is Yakumo, Ninninger of Shuriken Sentai Ninninger, and he's whatever. He's an intellectual type, but there already was one on the team with Kasumi, and she's a lot better in my opinion. So really the only thing he is to me is a ninja who could also do magic, and that's just kind of stupid. He's an okay character, I guess, but he's not that great. He's C tier. Next is Sella, Zyuohger Shark of Dobut Sentai Zyuohger, and she's probably the best of the Ju-men, but that's not really saying much. The biggest problem with them is that they don't really have any backstory. I at least know a little bit of Sella's backstory with their family back in Juland, but it's not brought up too much. And other than that, just kind of a generic character. She has a pretty good relationship with Leo, and the episode with the marriage scammer is one of my favorite episodes of Zyuohger, and that's a focus episode of Sella's. So she's okay, she's C tier. Next is Garu, Okami Blue of Uchi Sentai Kyuranger, and he's my least favorite Blue. Just that his character is just about worshipping Lucky and following him around, and that's just annoying. And the thing is, he had an interesting thing with him being the last of his kind, but all he does is follow around Lucky. Although the episode where they infiltrate the space hotel or whatever is pretty good, and he's funny in that episode, but other than that, he's just a nothing character. He's my least favorite Blue Ranger. He's D tier. Next is Toma, Lupin Blue of Kaito Sentai Lupinranger, and he's just a generic, strong, silent type, and that's really all I can say about him. The Lupin Rangers other than Kairi are pretty forgettable, and I guess his relationship with his fiancée is cool, and he learns to grow closer to the other Lupin Rangers, but he's just mostly forgettable. He's alright, but he's just generic, so he's B tier. Next is Melto, Ryusoul Blue of Kishu Sentai Ryusoulger, and he's kind of a generic intellectual type that also is kind of cool. and that's pretty much it. He has some funny moments, he has some cool moments, but his wig looks ridiculous. But he's alright, so he's B tier. Next is Shigeru, Kirame Blue of Mashin Sentai Kyoryuger, and he's definitely my favorite Kyoryuger. He's just cool and charismatic, he has funny moments, and I honestly like his relationship with Juru, and I just like him a lot, so he's A tier. Next is Vroom, Zenkai Vroom of Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger, and he's one of the worst blues. He's just a nothing character, he's just a generic intellectual nerd type character, and he's just nothing. There's really nothing else I can say about him, so he's D tier. Next is Saruhara, Saru brother of Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers. And he's definitely the least interesting of the main Dawn Brothers, but he's still pretty good. He's eccentric like the other ones. He doesn't believe in money, and all he does is say haikus all the time, and that's funny. And he has some really funny episodes. He's not anything special, but he's still pretty good, so he's B tier. Next is Yanma, Tombo-Ohger of Osama Sentai King-Ohger, and he's another one of the best blues. Just that he came from nothing to become king of Inkasopa, and even though he is kind of a generic cool guy, jerk, he mellows out throughout the season, and I like his relationship with Gira in the first chapter. That's probably the best part of the first chapter, and he definitely has the best relationship with his retainer out of all the kings, and just the episodes where it's focused on him trying to bring back Inkasopa from the Uchu are just great episodes, and I just really like him, so he's S tier. Now I'm going to talk about Chashiro, Boom Blue of Bakuage Sentai Boukenger, and so far he's a generic, no-nonsense, professional, serious type character. He's probably my favorite of the Boukeingers, but like the other ones, his backstory hasn't been explored pretty much at all, and in the first couple episodes when it was kind of revealed how he met Tai and stuff like that, it was interesting, but none of that has been explored yet. So he's alright. Right now he's probably like a B tier character, but there's still half of the season left, so hopefully more of his character is explained. Next is Mitsuki, Akiba Blue from the first season of Hikonen Sentai Akibaranger, and I really like her. I feel like she pulls the team together just because she's the only one that isn't a crazy fanboy, and she's kind of cynical at first, but eventually gets really into tokusatsu, and it's really funny and wholesome, and I just really like her. She's probably A tier, and maybe even S tier if I was rating her with the other Blue Rangers. Finally, Luna, Akiba Blue from Season 2 of Akibaranger, and she's way worse than Mitsuki just because she's so similar to Akiba Yellow and kind of defeated the whole purpose of what Mitsuki stands for. So I really don't like her. She's probably my least favorite Akibaranger out of all of them, so she should probably be D tier. So here's my tier ranking of all the Super Sentai Blue Rangers. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And I just want to say thank you for watching. It's been lots of fun making these tier ranking videos, and I'll probably do Extra Heroes next week and then take a break for a while from tier rankings. And then I finished watching Geo, so as soon as I'm published this video, I'll start working my Geo video. It should come out a couple of days after this one. And then after Gotchard ends next week, I'll get out a video on that ASAP because I've been waiting to tear into that season for so long at this point. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feedback is always appreciated. Have a great day.